now and okay, good.
All right.
So
I have to push the button here. Here we go.
all right. I'm Linda Lambert, and I'm talking with Martha Oliver Smith. She also goes by the nickname Patty. And she contributed the concluding essay, although she probably didn't know it was concluding at the time, to Spring and All, which is written and edited by Red Wheelbarrow Writers and published by Sidekick Press. In case you want to know, you'll find it on page 203. And here's what the book like. This is the first copy, advanced copy that came out. And I quite like the cover. Your story is a captivating one about traveling in the country, staying in rooms that smelled like, and I quote, meatloaf and cigarettes, and meeting a girl with humor and no bullshit in her eyes. That was great. So, Patty, you live in Vermont and you're a retired teacher.
Yep.
You've been taught at both high school and community college levels. And I'm very interested to talk to you about how you happen to contribute to Spring and All. How did you find out about it?
Well, I have some connections. I went through the narrative project for one thing, and so I do know some of those people, and that is part of it. And also a long history with my friend Laura Kalpakian, and she was the one who just said, there's this opportunity to write something, and here, it's going to have a topic, and she said, she kept nudging me to do it. And finally I did it. So that was how I got into it. I probably would not have known about it, except that I did, mostly actually, I think I heard of it through the narrative project first. And then Laura said, you need to do this. So anyway.
Laura's a great nag.
Yeah, she is. She really is.
She pushes. I took her class, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 2012, 2013, and when she taught out at the at Western, and it was great. And then I was in a critique group with her, and we're in Red Wheel. How do you know her?
Well, we go way back. We knew each other back in I think it was 1971, 70, something like that.
You go back.
Yeah, a long time. And we've never lost touch with each other. I mean, there are years go by that we don't see each other. I'm obviously on the other end of the country, although I did live out west for quite a few years. But she was teaching at Lincoln University, and my former husband was also, he got a job there too. And that's how we connected, was through just being colleagues, my husband and Laura being colleagues. And we just ended up really becoming great friends, and we have all, we've stayed that way. It's just, she's just the best sense of humor, and she's just, it's a wicked, wonderful sense of humor.
Wonderful sense. Where is Lincoln College? I haven't heard of that.
It's
several Lincoln colleges,
right? It's in it's right on the Maryland-Pennsylvania border, and it's a historically Black college.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and it was a very interesting experience. And we were, I think we were both there. She might have been there 3 years. We were there 2 years, and they were cutting back on faculty at that time, and so we ended up having to go. I think she was ready anyway. She had started writing her first novel by then, and she was ready to just take off and do that and never look back. So yeah, so, and then my husband and I ended up going to Oregon, and I stayed out there for 30 years. And
you did?
Yeah. So I'm, I have deep roots in the West.
Well, you should come back.
I love going back, but now I'm really rooted here. So I have really bi-coastal. I've got all of my children live on the West Coast, and I got, two and three in Portland and one in San Francisco, and they all grew up out west, so they're Westerners.
Yeah.
And yeah, so here I am, and I love living here, but it is a little bit schizophrenic sometimes.
Well, how did you end up in Vermont? I don't want to talk a lot about location, but it is interesting.
Right. Well, because my sister lives here, and I ended up, this is, a very, the Stephen that's in my story.
Yes.
He and I went to high school together, and we ended up reconnecting, and
Wow.
now we're married. That's the nutshell. But it's a whole other story, and I'd love to tell it to you sometime, but I know we got to do some work here. So
Well, yes, and actually that was one of my questions because Stephen just sounds, I just like the way he sounds, and I'm glad you found him. And I like that line that you said, we married late in our 50s after we learned some hard lessons from failed marriages.
yeah.
That's just ripe for more exploration.
Yeah, yes. And
Now.
when I started writing the story, I wasn't sure how much of backstory to give, but
Sure.
there was the limit of words was really an interesting
Yeah.
challenge,
Yeah.
because okay, that's a story, but and I have to say, the when I was being edited, it was like, you need to get rid of some of this stuff. So but I just think, oh, how much do I say here? And I thought, okay, well, this is the capsule. And so that's how it ended up, and I thought, okay, I guess it works. So
Oh, it
yeah.
does work. I
Mhm.
really like the story. And when I found out, I didn't, when I found out it was the ending story, I just thought that was perfect.
Well, it is an interesting piece to end with, I think, because
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's not all happy ending. But
No,
it's
it's not.
uh but there is some resolution, and there's a sense of, okay, we can move on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you did move on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And is there going to be more? Are you going to flesh out this story even further, maybe somewhere else or in a book length or?
Well, I haven't really thought about that. I mean, I felt like there was more to say in some ways, but I am in the middle of, well, I'm almost at the end of writing a memoir, and I that's where my focus is right now. So I have to say, it's uh yeah, I really had to tear myself away from this big story that I am sometimes drowning in. And it was really kind of a neat experience to say, okay, I have to do this other thing now.
Uh-huh.
And I do, every now and then I will break away and write something else. I've written a few, but I've also used chapters from the memoirs, something short, and
Sure.
send out. And this time I just, because I'd had that experience, I needed to do something with it. And
Yeah.
this seemed like I mean, the topic really was perfect for it. It was like, wow, now I know where I'm going, where I need to go with this story.
Mhm.
Um, so it was just fortuitous.
Well, sometimes I'm the same way when I'm writing. I want to work on one thing, and it's
Mhm.
hard to deviate. And actually, these interviews are kind of a fun deviation from my
Oh,
other
good.
project, and I'm really enjoying this,
Yeah.
and especially when I come across such fun lines in the stories, like in yours.
Uh-huh.
I
Well, good.
enjoyed it. So the second memoir is that Marnie's Voices.
That's the one. Yes. Uh-huh. That's it's a memoir.
It's a memoir, but I love that phrase, an author and eccentric parent. Come on,
Mhm.
how is she eccentric? I know you're gonna have to wait for the memoir, but you want to say
Right. Well, she
about
was,
that?
this is the thing, she really was eccentric, and having her as a mother was sometimes excruciatingly embarrassing. And I do, because she was also, before, even more than she was a writer, and she was a writer her whole life,
Ah,
she was an actress, and she was
really?
always playing a part. Well, the actress, I will be telling the story, but had a walk-on part in a Broadway flop that lasted 3 days. But she trained as an actress, and instead of
Oh,
going to college, she went to a theater acting program, that was training for young actors. And she never dropped that. And so she was always with her fake English accent, which she had and nobody else in the family had. That was there's a little preview for you.
yeah, that sounds really fascinating.
Oh, she's a character, literally.
Yeah. Well, how far along are you on that one?
I finished a full draft, and I've had it edited already. Did a what do you call it? Developmental editor look at it, and I'm now cleaning up the mess. So it's just such a process.
Isn't it so interesting that
Yeah.
we've got this maybe not perfectly good draft, but pretty darn good draft.
Yes.
And then quack, 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 quack. Somebody comes in
Exactly.
with their
There's a lot of
editorial
whacking and moving stuff,
and moving
just
stuff.
yeah, the structure, I knew that the structure I was really struggling with that.
Yeah.
And because it's got a lot of moving parts in it, and I just wasn't sure where everything belonged. And I still have things that I'm struggling with, but I feel like now that I've got this is where you need to do this and this and that. And I'm thinking, thank you. I just need a little bit of a roadmap here.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Structure is almost always what I struggle with.
Yeah, it's
What
hard.
it is, not so much in poetry, but in
Right.
fiction writing, it's a struggle. I'm working on a piece that I've had for many decades, and it's just hard. And
I
I think I'm a
know.
reasonably intelligent person, but I have trouble with
You just keep
structure.
wondering when that little bird is going to whisper it in your ear, this
Yeah,
is it.
and then you get concentrated on the bird. Well, what kind is it, and why did it fly away?
These distractions.
It's kind of a
Really,
demon bird. I don't know.
really.
Have you always written?
Well, no. I resisted it for many years, and the reason was because of my mother. I was not going to be a writer. I was going to be I didn't know what I was going to be, except that I was going to be a mother and much better than her. And then it came time for me to realize that, you know what?
Uh-oh.
Well, I managed to deflect the writing part somewhat by going to school. I thought I can do this. I can go.
Sure.
I'll finish college. I mean, I started when I was 18 having kids. And I ended up, just finally realizing I needed to do something with my brain. And I went back to school and finished college. And then I went to graduate school. And then, I thought, okay, well, I can teach. That's not writing. And so after a long, long time, it took me till I was in my 50s before I started writing.
Well,
So
what
I'm a
did you
bloomer here.
what did you major in, and what work did you do?
I majored in English. In graduate school, I focused on Victorian literature. And I did a thesis on George Eliot. And so I was sort of telling myself I wasn't writing and I wasn't doing, all these things that were part of my background. Actually, I grew up in a
Yeah.
house full of, old books, and I read a lot of them. So that was, just me not avoiding what was inevitable, but what I resisted just because I was so mad at my mother.
Our
So
mothers can mess us up.
they do. It's just really, and my thing, of course, I have 4 children, and I keep thinking, I hope I haven't. So far, they're telling me I did okay. So
Yeah, mine are doing the same thing. Mine are saying they did okay. I mean, there have been some problems, but we're
of
all
course.
pretty close. And
Yeah.
I don't know. My mom told me that I was the most unmaternal person she had ever met.
Oh my goodness. Oh, nice, Mom.
That was nice. And also that I was so bossy and athletic that I should be a PE teacher.
Oh, God. Well, you could do both. Why not?
Well, I have a daughter who is a PE teacher.
Okay, so there you go.
So that
Skipped a
does it.
generation.
Yeah. But and she was a really quiet person. She didn't say that in a mean way. It was just her observation. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, you can have all kinds of characteristics that you will benefit you in one way or another, but
Yeah.
being a writer, that's great.
Well, why did you think it was so awful to be a writer
I think
from your mom?
because my mother was so distracted all the time
Oh,
by her work, and not it wasn't just
yeah.
her work. She was also, she was an incurable romantic and married three of the wrongest men she could find, and so she was hardly ever at home. She parked us all. I have a brother and a sister, and we're all very close, actually, partly because we kind of took care of each other.
Yeah.
Um, but she parked us with our wonderful grandmother. I mean, I can't say my childhood was terrible, but it was, in terms of the mother-child, mother-daughter relationship, it was just not, it just didn't work.
It was
And
laughing.
yeah, it was really lacking. And I think, I blamed her for a lot, of course. And then I just decided I wasn't going to be like her in any way I could possibly be, just.
You're so stubborn.
Yeah. And so, what do? You're running away from the thing you run smack into, So that's what I ended up with. And unfortunately, she died rather young. So, she
Oh,
never knew me as a writer. My writing is, I haven't published a lot, and I have, man, it takes me forever to write something. And it was good to have that anthology deadline, because I had to get it done,
yes.
and now I'm just trying I'm trying to not let it outlive me. So the book, I mean, I have a first book that I published, which was another memoir. So, but it was much easier to write, and it had some elements in it that were easier to address as well. So
Yeah, it sounds like this second one has some challenges to it because you want to do it right.
exactly.
And you want to probably have some grace in it. You're not there to badmouth your mother.
No, not at all. And that is, that's definitely, there is resolution and acknowledgement, and some real affection in there too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, do you write anything else? Do you do poetry? Do you do any other
Well,
genres?
when I first allowed myself to write, I started with poetry. And recently I haven't written much, just because I'm so involved with this book. But it's been Poetry Month all month,
Yeah.
and National Poetry Month. And I went to a little reading on Sunday, and it was just, and I brought my older poems with me, and I just loved it. It was so much fun. And I just thought, oh, I want to get back there. So one of these days I will allow that to happen. I will allow it in, because I always feel like poems kind of fly into your ear or something.
I know. And I just got a poem published in an anthology that the state poet laureate did.
Oh, nice.
And I was really pleased about that, but I don't consider myself a poet. I sort of do it when something catches me, like you said. So
Yes.
I'm not that serious about it. And yet I've done poetry every day in years past. Last year I just did American Sentences, and that was interesting to do. This year
Mm.
I was too busy. I don't know. You're not. I shouldn't use that as an excuse, but I just felt too busy with other.
Well, sometimes you just, there's so much going on that, it's hard to let those poems in.
Yeah.
You don't have the moment of, just that, whatever it is that happens when you think, oh, I think there's a poem there,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And when you're really, I think, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, when you say I am a poet, and I don't consider myself a poet either. I
I
just
won't
write
use those
every
words.
so often, so or I used to, and I think I will again. I just feel like I want to. So, but it is a kind of way that you are receptive to that when, when you can be. So, yeah.
I've always written too, but my first degree was English and then journalism and then library science.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was a librarian after raising my kids. And but really I've only had time in the last 10 years since I retired to do much writing.
Well,
And I am also a very slow writer, and it's so discouraging that it just is, it's painstaking sometimes. And I think, my
it's-
brain, am I getting too foggy? So I gotta do it every day so that I'm
well,
don't
I
get
do.
tired.
I have been pretty much almost every day, but oh God, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I
Yeah.
feel like, am I going to be able to finish this?
Yeah, yeah. So we just have to keep plugging away and be
We
hopeful.
do. We do. That's
So
right.
what are you hoping for that for your second manuscript? Do you want to self-publish, or do you want to find a publisher?
I really don't want to self-publish because I just feel like the labor involved in that for me would be just, I don't have much of a handle on social media or promoting myself,
Yes.
and I'm not very organized, which I think you really need to be. And it would just be a whole other realm that I am not, comfortable in. And so I've got, well, one of the great things about the narrative project is they teach you how to write a proposal. And I've gotten a little bit of that done. I
Good,
started
good.
it when I was in the program, and then I've sort of, picked away at it. And I feel like that's sort of where I need to go. But, and I also, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to, reconnect with some people that might be helpful that way. And so we'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But it's, and I, the fact that I've started it, but I just feel like, let's just finish the book first. And then, I have a bunch of stuff done that I can use. So,
Yeah,
but
that's
boy, that's a job too.
it is a job. Do you have a critique group now where you live in Vermont?
I have a writing group. They're not really a critique group, but I do have people who I can ask to read. So
Good.
that in fact I have a ton of them. I've got some beta, as they call them. That was a new term for me. I've
Yeah,
got some beta
yeah.
readers lined up actually. And I also have a daughter who is she's actually an editor. And so
Oh, really?
yeah, and so she will be, she can look at it. She and she'd be happy to do that. And then I've got another friend who is also an editor, and she will look at it. And so, just for, things like, sentences and paragraphs, I don't really need content editing from them, but just people to read it and tell me what they think, and then, clean it up if necessary, that kind of thing.
Well, those are good resources.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm just lucky to have that. But yeah. So yeah.
Are you in a small town? What kind of a town are you in?
Well, we live about, I would say, a mile or 2 miles from any town on a dirt road.
Oh,
Uh, I mean, this is really rural Vermont, which makes it kind of like, you're in a sort of perpetual, um, what do you call it, writing retreat, which, except that I still have to cook and do dishes and things like that. It's like, if this really were a writing retreat, I would I would have, my dinner cooked for me.
I know, you gotta get into Hedgebrook or one of the.
Yeah, I know. I have applied there, and I keep thinking they're never going to take me, so I've sort of given up on that. But
I've given up. I've applied there too. It's
yeah,
extremely competitive. And
I
besides
know.
that, I don't know, older white women, I think, have less
Uh,
of a
yeah,
chance.
well, thank you for saying that, because I have that same sense of like, we're a
Yeah.
dime a dozen.
Yeah, we are a dime a dozen, and somehow
Yeah,
there's inflation to our dimes.
I know.
But
So I've stopped trying to go there, and I try to pretend that this is my writing retreat.
Well, I think
But
that's good. Maybe we should
yeah,
switch houses.
yeah, that's a thought. It's so far away. I really want to get to Bellingham again. I love that town. It's
Oh, it's a
wonderful.
great town.
It
And
is a great town.
you will be welcomed by all the Red Wheelbarrow people, and Laura will.
Well, that would be great. And you have the best bookstore in the world, I think.
Oh, Village Books. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm really grateful to be here.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. So, gosh, do we cover everything we need to? I don't know.
I I feel I feel there are always other things to explore, but I feel, oh, well, I know. Do you have any quirky writing habits?
Oh God. Well, partly I don't like sitting at a desk, so I'm actually where I'm sitting right now, which is my dining table in the kitchen. It's sort of my living room, dining area, kitchen is sort of all one space, and I'm sitting here where I do a lot of my work. But
Hmm.
a lot of times I end up sitting on the couch. And I take a little nap sometimes, and then wake up, and then I start writing again, and and I think this is really dumb.
No, it's not.
It's funny. I did write a little piece that got published from the memoir in an anthology called "My Mother's Desk," and
Oh,
I just describe her desk and her at her desk and how it was not anywhere we could go near to, if we disturbed her, we were in trouble.
yeah.
And but I can't write at a desk. I just can't. And I guess that's sort of my quirk.
I can't write without a desk.
No,
We'd be
that's
friends if we lived together because I'd be at the desk.
you could have the desk. I'd take the couch.
Yes. A hotel room is not a good one unless it's got a damn desk in it.
Right. No, and I understand that. And I keep thinking, why don't you use a desk? You'd be much more comfortable.
Because it doesn't suit you. And because of your
It
mother,
doesn't.
probably. I don't
Probably,
know.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, do you have a little bit of best writing that you'd like to read
Well,
to?
I did. I sort of plucked out a couple of possibilities, and I have, I don't know which one works best, but maybe I'll just work with with a piece of the opening paragraph.
Okay.
Okay. For most of the day, the sun has been hardly noticeable, a frail disk. The disk has been growing larger, its pallor shifting to rose pink, then to shades of red, crimson, vermilion, scarlet. At 3:30 in the afternoon, the sun is disappearing, not setting, but smothering in smoke.
I liked that passage. When I
Okay.
first read it, I thought, wow, there are a lot of adjectives in here. And then I read it again and I thought, they work.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, well, it was just this, we were rolling into this smoky thing, and the sun was just like, what in the world is wrong with
Yeah.
it? Yeah, and then we heard on the radio that it was the mosquito fire.
Yeah.
Which,
Oh man,
yeah,
that was something.
I know, it really was.
Well, I hope we get to meet sometime.
Well, I have every intention of getting to Bellingham and visiting Laura, so.
Yeah, she'd love that. And if she has a house full of people, you can stay at our house.
All right, that's good. I'm so glad to have met
Here's
you.
that. Well, me too. And if I'm not all I seem, you can ask Laura. She knows the dirt on me if there is any.
You're perfect. And thank you so much. This is really a pleasure.
Thanks for a great conversation, and we'll talk again.
Yes, I hope so.
Okay,
Okay.
bye.
Bye-bye, Linda.